and now it should stream to YouTube. By the way, I don't know whether you are aware, but here we have video, and this is a link to a YouTube video for the previous lecture. So now we'll start a new one. But now that everything is collected on this website, um, and please install Prot if you don't have it installed. Okay, so here are some slides. So animal bioacoustics is a really interesting topic. I even have some preparation for it. This is a bit planned, but it's actually based on this Fletcher article. If you want to, I can send it around. So if you write me a letter, so send me a mail and I will send you the file. This is like really nice overall overview of animal bioacoustics. And this is a little bit side branch. So usually people who work with animal bioacoustics, they don't know much about people and other way around. And this, no, even previous, during the previous year in the summer, I attended to the school about animal bioacoustics and some automatic work on it. And it was really nice to see those people because there were people who work with bats, for instance, and it was weirdly so for instance they shared some recording and it was something like more or less, so when you if you play those recording, you will hear some human speech. And this is because bat researchers, for instance, they don't care much about what's going on because the different frequencies for bats and people is so drastic that it's possible to do everything you want during the session because animal will be on the higher frequencies. We'll go to this. So it was really nice to see all those people who work on birds, on bats. I think there were a girl who worked on marine creatures, and it was fascinating. But their approach is definitely differ from people from linguistics, because during the linguistic work you can do several things that you can't do during animal research. What do you think? What kind of things will be different? I will stop share.
You can ask your informant, please say for me this word, and you cannot ask a bat, so bat, please say me this word.
Exactly. This is a really one thing that I thought, wow, we are in a so good situation because here what we have, we can, exactly as you said, we can kindly ask our informants, please sit here in this nice room that I prepared for you in order not to have any noises over there. And then please say exactly this word. No, sorry, mate, you need to pronounce it differently, this way and not this way, and so on. And you can have this kind of communication. And animal researchers don't have any ability to do this because what they need is something like really catch everything in the wildlife. So, for instance, there are some people, weird people, but they made their money. They use some high quality recording of birds in order to um, poach them. So it's possible to play a recording of the bird, mating bird, for instance, and then some other bird will hear it and come to this sound. And those people can catch this bird or make a photograph of this bird and so on and so on. So this could be used. But animal researchers have their own ethic rules about this, because when you use such a thing, so you actually get put animals in a stress situation. So it's better not to use those situation, um, and make so use those kind of thing in order to have an ethically normal research in bioacoustics. So it's impossible, for instance, to sound so to make, for instance, a sound of the bird that went to mate, or afraid of something, or something like this. It's possible to do, but it will be the reaction of the bird will be natural, but it's not ethical. So they have a lot of different problems, and this was weird because I actually was I have created an R package um, for phonetics. So people so I had some kind of evaluation from different people from different branches, and after this they decided to have this uh, they asked me to write a text about ethical research that I needed to include everything, including animal bioacoustics research and so on. So this is definitely one different thing. So in researchers in bioacoustics, they are really poor in that way that they can't actually uh, get information from by they will, but they will have a long recording session that could be week long, or even month long, or even year long, and then they use automatic techniques in order to detect some events in this recording and hope that everything will be more or less clear from this recording, because it's possible that something is happening in the rainforest, for instance, the everything overlaps. So for instance, you can hear at the same time some songs, some bird songs, and in the meantime you will hear some frog songs and so on, and they will be interfere, so you won't have something like pure sound. Okay, any other ideas why animal researchers are doomed and linguists are so cool in their situation?
Maybe there could be a problem that, mm, for example, some bats can produce like ultra uh, ultrasound, ultrazvuk
Yeah.
sounds like that are very high, or ultra low sounds that we cannot hear, and we can always hear what other people are saying. So for animal researchers, they need special equipment, and without this equipment, they are like deaf because they cannot hear and understand anything.
You are 100% right again. So yeah, since animal researchers don't have any, so sometimes if you work with birds, it's okay. But when you work with, for instance, whales, or you can you can um, you can see them, but it's not something that you will perceive via your ears. But in most cases, researchers really, so there are some, probably there are some. I will try to search for this. Um, so VR acoustic equipment. What will I get? I'm really interested in what the result I will get. Uh, so they have something like I wanted to see something like this. Uh, so this is a guy. Can you see it? This is a guy who have something here, who have some headphones on his head, and he has this kind of radar and mic. So this mic will be directed, so you can go somewhere and record what's going on. So this is common situation if you know what do you want. But for now, in most cases, bioacoustic researchers, um, what they are doing, and mostly they put their different mics around the forest, and then record during the long period of time. Why do I have this loading? Do you see this picture? Aren't you?
Yeah, we can see it quite good.
Cool. Because for some reason I have this loading, um, the Zoom semi loading. Okay, anyhow. So yeah, but in most cases, so in those cases, when you put your equipment somewhere and go to I don't know, for another forest to make recording there, um, it more like it's not like with humans when you catch some people, record them, and then you have your recording, but it more like um, you leave your equipment somewhere, it records, and then you come back after a while and collect some recordings. Okay, so let's move here. So first thing that we need to say about different uh, animals and different frequencies is that uh, there is a correlation between animal mass and frequencies that they use. And this is due to small thing about the larynx structure. So if you see, here is a log scale of mass. So here, for instance, at the upper part, we have small mass for instance, for mice or large birds, and then you see cats, monks, humans, horses, and elephants. So here you have small creatures and huge creatures. And the frequencies that they use is more or less corresponds to this thing. It's actually frequencies of so when you see humans and something like starting from 100 and 500, we see from this it's not actually a frequency, but it's actually what we call zero f0 or pitch. So it's not so actually human can use something like around 2000 hertz or even 5000 hertz, but it's not about pitch itself. But here you see the pitch correlates with the mass. And this is quite natural actually. Uh, so from some others, I actually had another picture from other sources where I have tigers and something like this, and they are beautifully put it situated over here. So they are more or less this uh, log linear relation between mass and frequency. And then I will start research and sorry about animal research. And one thing that we didn't discuss why animal researchers are not so doomed, like for instance human researchers. Uh, Human researchers actually human speech is complicated and really have a lot of different patterns in it. Uh, I'm not one. I don't want to say that animal uh, calls that when you analyze they are not complicated. They could be really complicated, but the inventories of those calls are pretty small, uh, and calls themselves could be not so complex. So here, for instance, you see you can follow this pitch. Some pitch contour, it will be like blam, blam, and then it will be one beat of for a bird. It's a bird. Hermit is actually these birds with the long, not tail. How do you call it? Nail. Uh, so that's why they are not doomed because actual calls are not so complex. So it's possible. So for instance, first researchers can actually distinguish by bird call different birds, and there are I don't know thousands of them, thousands of different birds, and so using those calls, it's possible to get information about the exact bird and what's going on. So this is the first thing that I wanted to say. The second part is actually about bats. So here, look here, we have time, and frequency is something like 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 hertz, 20,000 hertz, up to 40,000 hertz. And this is bat call. And as you see, bats use sound as echolocation. So what they're doing is actually like pitching from different frequencies and analyze what will return to their hair uh, ears, hairy ears, because their ears are really hairy. So they use something like and then analyzing, and it's really fast. So you see here we have milliseconds on the X scale, so it's like I don't know, five 15 milliseconds, and then you have blip through from 35 to 10 kilohertz, and this is really huge, something that can happen during the bad calls. Um, but this is actually why battery researchers don't care much about just talking during the recording, because um, bad calls are situated in more or less in this region. It could be even higher, even I think till 80,000 hertz, so 80 kilohertz. So, and human speech is general. So, the most important part of the human speech will be lower than these 5 kilohertz that we see on the here. So that's why they don't care much. Uh, and another thing that actually I think, as far as I remember, who was that? I think Alexander. That is twice now for some reason. So I think Alexander this mentioned. So patterns could be really fast, but they also could be really slow. So this is something that happened. So this is a whale, uh, and this is a whale call that could be like repeating itself. But you see that it's something like brrr, and this is a long call. So you see here one chunk here is 20 milliseconds, uh, or even in seconds. I can't remember actually. No, I expect that it's milliseconds. So 500 milliseconds is something like one beat of the call, and they have it like repeating its own. Whale songs are actually pretty interesting. Uh, it's really unfortunate that we can't hear it much, or really a reduced version of it. Okay. So some animals actually use some tricks in order to produce sounds, because it's possible that I think I will just go there. I will stop share for a moment and open this video. As far as I remember, video will be a little bit clipping because I think it's a problem of my computer. But I will try to give it a try. Earth, Tropical Islands, Borneo. And then I will share my screen. And I hope that I will share also a sound. Okay. I don't know. Maybe it will. Okay, so let's try. Singing for a mate. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
The bigger the frog, the louder the call. But this male treehole frog is barely bigger than a fingernail. He'll need to do something special if he wants to be heard by a nearby female. She may only be meters away, but the chorus from the other frogs is deafening. This tiny male, however, has a trick. He searches for a tree hole. The size and shape of the hole are critical. He then does something remarkable. It begins with a sound check. Too low. He changes pitch. Too high. That's it. At this specific frequency, the tree hole resonates, amplifying the sound and broadcasting the call more than 50 meters across the forest.
So I will finish. So I hope that you've seen it and you've heard it. Are you?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So as you've seen, this small frog just go to the so need to search for some holes in order to make it resonate, in order to be heard, and this is really nice something. And it's not the only creature that do this. People do, but anyhow, there are also some insects that do the same thing. But with not, they are even doing the holes themselves, and that's a really fascinating thing to know. So I will continue. So hearing and sound production. This is surprisingly similar. So for instance, in most cases, use sound production of breathing animals is for non-aquatic mammals is just exhalation through valve, and then aquatic mammals use some tricks. They actually moving so they moving some air, actually not R but air, from one reservoir to another through the oscillating valve again. So you see that, so it's possible. So in most cases it will be something more or less similar to human sound production system. For non-breathing animals, it will be some mechanical vibrations, and we'll discuss them in a moment. So some animals communicate through vibration. This is actually a really nice thing. So imagine that you are in a water. So in this water environment, you can vibrate in order to say something. And the actually hearing system of fishes and some animals are used to those vibrations. I recommend this book. So some animals actually do both. So, for instance, crocodiles and alligators, they use vibrations and sound. So during the mate period, they actually uh, uh, make some calls, but in the same time, they actually use their head in order to um, create new vibration in the water around it. So they go up, make a call, then go using the head and the tail in order to make the vibration. This is really nice book by Vladimir Denets. It's in Russian and it's called Песни драконов, so dragon songs. Uh, it describes how this Vladimir Denets he wrote a PhD on exact those calls and those vibrations. So I really recommend to read it because it's really fascinating reading for if you want to create some huge text and you need to collect your data. This is actually really nice thing about, and a lot of think about statistics over there. So it's not like boring statistics, but he actually explains how so he actually explains how boring statistics is and what do you need to do in order to make it work. So I really recommend this book. I think it's you don't need to be a biologist in order to read it. Uh, so insects. Some insects have external sensory hairs, uh, and they rip file on their legs or wings. So it's possible to have something like rip something on their legs or wings, and it will be doing something like this. Like, um, and this is one option. And another option, I think it's here. So some crickets have evolved the strategy of digging a horn-shaped burrow in the earth, as I said. So they actually increase um, the hole and doing more or less the same thing as frog that I've showed you. There is also tenrecs, and this is really nice creatures. Again, I will try to show you the video. So tenrecs are, I will show you. So they are Madagascar endemics. They are looks like, so uh, somebody will say that it's like a hedgehog, but it looks like they are different. So this is the picture. Uh, and this is another picture, a little bit scary. Sorry for showing it to you. And maybe there will be some more pictures in like this. So they are look like hedgehog, but they actually they don't. So this is like similar evolution or something. So what the video that I wanted to show you is actually also from BBC Two film.
The family of striped tenrecs starts truffling through the dead leaves. They may look like hedgehogs, but tenrecs are unique to Madagascar, and these striped tenrecs are only found here in these eastern rainforests. One of the youngsters has been distracted by the discovery of a particularly juicy worm. A tenrec's teeth are small but needle-sharp and well suited to dealing with this soft, slippery food. By the time it's subdued its struggling prey, the rest of the family has moved on. This is not a good place to be out on your own in the dark. It needs to get back to its family. But how to find them in the tangled undergrowth? They have a unique solution: specialized quills on their backs.
And so on. I hope you've seen it, haven't you? Are you?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Cool. So as you've seen, they have some really nice thing at the in the back, and they use it in order to create some sounds. And this is exactly this ribbing strategy that's used by some animals, and it's mostly for insects. But as you see, some mammals also evolve it. Um, what is the name of this film about fox? It's written over here, so it's um, from the BBC's Earth's Tropical Island, Borneo. They are actually a series of three. So first Madagascar, Borneo, and what else? And something else. Can't remember. So uh, yeah, sorry. That's actually could be a little bit ugly for some people. Sorry, but I won't show any other videos today, so don't worry.
Could you send a link to this film about tropical islands
Sure,
to
but
the
you
chat?
have to the chat. You need it in the chat, but you have this presentation in the
So it is in the presentation, yes?
yes,
I
it's
see.
within the presentation. So it's written here, the presentation, and another link with Tenrix. Tenrix this is a link, so you could click it and it will be guide you to the web page. Okay, so it's within the presentation, and I can't send you the BBC, so the whole video, because it will be illegal and so on and so on. So I don't. I think that YouTube will be bothered even in that case that I stream this to you and showing some films. I think I will need to explain to YouTube that I'm not, I don't know, making money from this and so on. But if you need it, I think it's downloadable and you can find it everywhere.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. So insects. Uh, there is also will be some option when you have some membrane. I think this is the word that you can see over here. Where I stop sharing. Am I sharing? I'm not sharing actually. Am I? I'm not. So here, I'm not sharing. So here is it. So here it's just a bottle cup. So there are some animals, so insects that use this strategy with membrane that will make some sound. For some reason, I don't want to do it, but something like this. And there's also insects that do this.
But people can't hear it, right?
They do. They do.
Really?
Yeah. We hear a lot of different insects. Yeah. So I think this kind of production is due to, how do you call them? I can't remember. Need to recollect it somewhere. So the problem is that I don't remember even in Russian how they call them. So I'm afraid. No, I can't remember. I think it's either crickets or cicades, cycades. How do you call them? So they use this membrane. Blah. Mm, mm,
Oh, you mean сверчки?
yes.
Mm.
So we actually can hear them. And think about this, because it won't be the case that animals will produce some not loud sounds in order not to be not to be heard, because if they do, they won't be heard by the same species. So this could be a huge problem for this. So those sounds actually will be more or less loud for most animals if this is a call that they address to these species or others. This is actually a really nice thing because uh, I didn't spend time reading about this, but I've heard once that animals they actually adopt to each other. So imagine that you have, for instance, frogs. So maybe I don't know, maybe you are a bird. Imagine that you are a bird. Uh, and then you have a nice time spending in the forest, but then frogs arise, and they are a huge flock of them. So you can't do anything because they are so loud, and they loud in your frequencies. So you need to move your frequencies in order to not interact with frogs. So this kind of adaptation, this is also nice. And this also a cause of people destroying some ecosystems because when for the were experiment that it's not experiment because some people I think it's some in US they spent this some time in the forest each year, and then he suddenly realized that this year is not so loud as previous one. And then he realized that this American force, not airspace, for planes, plane the base is there, so they just flying with this hyper sound, and then you see you can hear something like all the time in the earth, and you have this, and this interact with the animals, and this really destroyed the something over there, and they change it, but then it get back. So something like this. So this is a really nice thing that animals interact with each other and those frequencies, and they kind of fight for this. So they need to fight for those frequencies in order to be heard. Um, and this thing I also didn't present to you because I didn't spend time reading about this, but this is really fascinating topics because different animals use different calls for different purposes. So because some calls are have purpose to signal, for instance, to make a signal to another uh, animal from your species that you are ready to mate, or that you are here and I'm really strong. Don't don't go here. But it's also some animals use some calls in order to show something to other species. So, for instance, some animals, so for instance, lions or any cats, they will use these roars in order to prevent any animal to go to their place. So showing here I am, I'm strong, and don't get into the trouble. And there will be, again, if you rely on something, there will be liars. So there are some liar animals that that just try to reproduce these sounds in order to get something in their hands. So for instance, some will lie about the sound and produce some sounds that will lure some animals to come. Uh, and this is a lot of different things going on there. And this is frustrating topic, but um, we won't have much time on it. So now I'm sharing screen back to you. So land vertebrates or will be birds over here, or some mammals, or it could be frogs or something like this. So mostly they have lungs and they have bronchus and they have those vocal folds that we have in human. And then we have trachea, and then we have tongue and lips and so on and so on. And the idea that we have these vocal folds and we use breathing out and sometimes breathing inside, this is also important, because there are some sounds that produced aggressively, so breathing outside. This is the most sounds that I produce. But it's also possible to produce sounds inside. So doing something like this. In most cases, it's just show you some wonder or something like this. Some there will be some class that will include it, but animals actually can do the same. So, for instance, have you ever thought why cats can purr not quite non-stoply? Have you ever thought about this?
Because they love us.
Yeah, sure. I don't believe it, but anyhow, okay, love. But so they will purr in order to what? So how? I don't ask you why they're poor. I ask why they how they were like for I don't know 10 minutes without any stop.
They can do it all the time because they do it inhaling and exhaling.
Exactly, exactly. And somebody called me. Sorry, I will. Sorry. I'm sorry. So somebody yeah. So the idea that they actually can do something like this inhaling and exhaling. So if you record your cat purring, then you will realize that there is a small pause during this pouring. So you will get something like long pouring and then boom, and then again. And this is because it will be just switches. And this is nice. I think I even have this article in my computer uh, because it's true for some other cats. So I think I have pictures of some where is that? I think it's here. Yeah, over here. I don't see it here.
But can we call purring communication?
Sorry?
You are talking about cats purring?
No, yeah, about
Mm-hmm.
cat sporing, but that they it's possible. So not so cheetahs. I think they also do it. Okay, it's not so important. So they um um so yeah, so there's a really nice photo of the guy who will sit near the cheetah and record its pouring, and this is really nice. um, okay, so Anya commented that it's probably also means that calls from animals or insects in one population can become incomprehensible to guys from other populations.
Yes, it was about this diverging
Yes,
when they change pitch, as you explained.
yes,
Yes.
I agree, Anya. It's really nice comment because from this point it will make possible to start phonology in animal behavior. Um, it's really hard to. It's still really hard because you need to somehow connect them. And different species, and it's not so clear in
Mm-hmm.
biology. It's not so easy to say whether those guys from one species or another because um, it's not
sometimes it's not obvious.
Yes, what I meant was that it's cool to think that
Yeah,
these changes in pitch can lead to some um, divergence of species. For example,
not only,
if they
but sorry.
yeah, I mean if one population becomes incomprehensible to others, they probably it has some consequences to their biology, how they connect to each other, and maybe it can lead to some uh, biological
Yeah,
result. Yeah.
totally. I agree. This is really nice. And there's also it's not obligatory it will be changing the pitch. It's also possible to change some call. So, for instance, it will be pitch structure that will be different in different species.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think let's move on. So, oh no, not sharing. No, I'm sharing. So here we see that there are mammals with the vocal folds, and there are also birds that have that so-called syrinx. So those syrinx is actually some membrane like vocal folds, but it's actually so all birds have the pair of syrinx in each bronchus. So as you see, there will be little distinction between them, and it's make it possible to use actually different frequencies. So they will vibrate with different frequencies, and some birds can do this. So some animals adjust their vocal system to so that actually, I think this is more or less common. So some animals adjust their vocal system so that the frequency of the vocal valve closely matches a major resonance, like actually like a frog in the wood. Um, so usually that of lowest frequency, but not necessarily so, because it's possible that it will be higher frequencies. Like for instance, the bird. I think that we some bird at the beginning. It's definitely not the so this call. Where do we have it? Oh, it's not moving. Wow. We'll start again. No way. Yeah, so they okay. For some reason, I don't want to show you this slide. So it was
I think that there are some problems with this particular presentation since my computer doesn't quite manage to open it. Maybe it's too big or something. Maybe these pictures are too big.
yeah. Sorry. Maybe you're right. What I wanted to show you this bird call, and this will match with not the first format, no, not first. It won't be the first format that will match with the call. So here were birds. So some animals change their frequency range according to environment, and I already gave you some examples. And some species use some species adjust frequencies to the upper vocal tract, but some species actually change the vocal tract itself. So they increase it. So some frogs, birds, and actually some marine mammals actually do the same. So they actually increase the sac that they have here, and so it increases, and they have more like louder and sound with the lower frequency. Okay. There is also air Saxon apes, but they are a little bit so uninvestigated, because they have different theories about what they are doing and why they are not working right now, and why, for instance, humans doesn't have those sacs and other apes does. And this is really interesting thing about ape biology. Berlam. Yes, here in most mammals and other large animals, the auditory canal joined to the two ears. So in birds and reptiles has generally degenerated in mammals to the extent that each ear functions nearly independently. And this is nice thing. So sometimes you have this auditory system that works synchronically, and but sometimes they accumulate the information, and then you have so sometimes you have something like two sources, and then you need to work on it, or sometimes you have two sources and then you merge information into one, and this could be a different strategy. So birds have syrinx. So again, it's membrane. So like this, and they can increase and decrease those membrane and change frequencies according to this. Since they have two sources, it's possible to do something like more or less like overtone singing. Sorry, another link. So I really like this woman. Do you know something about overtone singing? Nobody
No.
does? Cool.
So it's about, is it when like you basically produce two sounds at the same time? So like I'm not sure how to describe it because I'm not an expert in sounds and stuff. Basically, when you pronounce a sound and then there's sort of like an overlaid or a very high pitch, I'm not sure. So basically, yeah, two sounds at once.
Yeah, so I think you will hear it from now, but you're mostly right. So the idea that you sing and then you produce, actually you're making two kind of pitches, not one. Here is an example.
Hello, I am Anna Maria, and I'm an overtone singer, and I'm
We
going
can
to
see,
tell you something.
Yep.
we can see the video, or you just want us
Sorry,
to
sorry,
listen.
sorry. Sorry. Here it is.
About polyphonic singing today. Overtone singing is a voice technique where one person sings two notes at the same time.
So you see the system. So it's mostly one note that she sing, and then she had this overtone thing that's go up and then changes different notes over here.
The left side of the screen is
Blah, blah, blah,
but not the
blah. And here is another example when she actually, so she's not singing using one note, but kind of changing those notes, but the overtone also changes and she can play around with it. And this is a really nice technique that human can do. And more or less the same thing you will achieve with birds. So they can since they have these two pairs of syrinx, they can do they could have different changes in frequencies on their own.
I think I know another this kind of singing style like Mongolian Humai.
Yeah,
do you know Mongolia? They also have this kind of singing style.
I think this is a little bit spread through the area because I've heard about Burat and probably
Tuvan also.
Tuva, Nanais, and Chukchi. It's a pity that Ina is not here, but because she would say some, because I think she had some examples. So it's spread through the area, I think. So they have a lot of more or less the same. I'm not sure that they are the same because it's they use different techniques. Because what she's doing, she's more or less playing with her tongue, as far as I understood. But what they are doing with this all this area, they're playing with the some addition with the laryngeal system that is more complicated than we think about it. So they are a little bit different, but yeah, they are of the same folk, let's say. Are these tones harmonics? I would say that everything is harmonics. So the idea that you sing and then there are some harmonics, and then one you choose some of them, and she actually have some. She have an ability. She has an ability to choose which one will be selected, but it's not like she can do every note from this tone. So they are connected to the frequency of the initial song, let's say.
So this is like a chord, like she's creating a chord from other tones, right?
Yeah, but I'm not a specialist, so don't treat my word as the only one and right one, but because I may be wrong. But this is really fascinating stuff. Just put it on YouTube and you will find a lot of different stuff here. This is really nice. And thank you, Alexander, for sharing the link to the Tuvan people singing. Okay, we are a little bit out of time, so I will try to wrap it up here. So make it, but I think it will be okay. So some birds have developed the ability to mimic others around them, and this is known examples. Do you know those birds?
Parrots?
Sure, parrots. And it should be really fascinating because the overall vocal tract system of the parrot is substantially differ from the people's, but they still can mimic everything. Not everything, but a lot. So this is really nice for them. So they, so we don't need to think that we are the only ones who do that. This, but it's also possible to do the same thing with different vocal cord structure. Not vocal cord, sorry, a vocal oral tract structure. Bats. I actually mentioned something about bats. So echolocation. So they from it's actually yeah. So for some blind people, it's also you can use some techniques like what they're doing is clicking by using their tongue. So some blind people use stick, but they also sometimes there is I think that I've seen a school about the person that teach students to use this echolocating system. So you go through the environment like doing like this, and you can understand what's going on there and where you need to go and where is the wall, where is not the wall, and so on. They are drastically short calls, huge range. So you see 40, 80 kilohertz. So kilohertz, this is important. So this is 40,000 hertz and 80,000 hertz. But I think that we've seen even a lower value. So it was 30 kilohertz or something. And yeah, and another nice feature about bats that they it looks like that they emit their sound through nose rather than through the mouth. People can do the same, but not so loud. So yeah, that's about bats. And the last slide over here is aquatic animals. So crustaceans like crabs, they do more or less like insects. So they produce sound by rubbing a toothed leg file against one of the plates covered over the body. So this is the that we had. So like this. Fish species with swim bladder, they actually have this membrane, and they use this swim bladder that oscillates by muscular effort. So they increase or decrease and create some sound through this. And there is also a different system of hearing, like hair cells and otolith in some special fishes, I guess. Maybe I'm wrong. I think otolith, it's something inside. Where do you find it? No, it's a, yeah, it's in fishes. Okay, so I'm not wrong. So it's some fishes uses another system that depends on vibration and more like movements. So you move through water, and somehow you can hear if through this movement. And this is hard to explain, but it's really really interesting thing to have. And I think this is all for this lecture on animal bioacoustics. So I think we now will have a 10 minutes break. And after this, we'll return, and please install prod if you haven't. And after this, we'll back to an action.
Brum, brum, brum. I think it's time to start. Do you have any troubles installing prod? I will assume that you don't. Are you here? Please type 1 in chat if you are here. Cool. It looks like a lot of you are here. Nice to read one from you. Okay, then I will start sharing my screen. Probably, if you open prod the first time, please do. You will see something like this. So this is prod picture, and this is the first window, and this could be closed. And this is prod objects, and this is the one of the window, the main window that we'll work with. So please now open prod and make sure that you see this prod object window. And maybe it will be boring for some of you, but it will be just prod introduction. Okay. So yeah, maybe I will switch it this way. Okay. So here is the prod object, and what you can do is actually we'll start with something unusual. We'll try to do some sound, and the sound could be created as you create new sound. You can see a bunch of things that you can do. So it's possible to create sound from formula, from some grammatone, gammatone, and so on and so on. First, we'll try with formula. So I tried, and here you see create sound from formula, and this will be just name. It could be everything. So for instance, blah. Number of channels, don't care. Start time 0, end time 1 second. A sampling frequency, will get back to it, but for now it will be the same. And here is the formula. Actually, if we reduce everything except this, maybe we'll change it to cosine. We'll see more or less what we've seen last time. So here is the cosine. Here is value of amplitude. Let's say 2. Here is 2 pi. Don't care about it. 400 is the frequency, and x will be just time, so don't care. And if we create OK after this, you will see really weird noise like this. Sorry. It was too loud even for me. Sorry for I didn't want to scream into your ears. So please create a sound and type 1 when you do it. Create a sound with the frequency, I don't know, 500.
Could you copy this formula in the chat, or should we create just random sound?
It's not random, but the default value will more or less contain the formula for this, but I can copy the formula for you if you...
I have some formula with synosis, with P, and random Gauss by default. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't need normal Gauss because it's just noise. And 2 cosine is the formula of sound that we actually discussed last time. So it's the formula for the decimal harmonic motion. Cool. Aisha, yes. I don't think it's a question, but yeah, if you put there.
I'm just fascinated. Yeah, whatever. Sorry.
Okay. But anyhow, you can play around with this sound. It will be, if you 200, it will be lower. If it will be 500, it will be higher, and so on and so on. Okay, so we have several ones. Even all of you. No. It's better to use another number next time because now it mixed with the previous one. Previous one. Okay. Thank you. So if anybody has any troubles with creating your first sound, please let me know. I will come and help you. It's still quite small number of people who achieved this. Thank you. Cool. Beautiful. Now it's a lot of people. I even would say crowd.
I tried to change sampling frequency and nothing happened. Is it okay? I mean,
I think if you, so I think what you've changed, you either increased it, and then you increased the quality of the audio that you've created, or decreased, and then you decreased the quality of the audio, but it's hardly to see from the sample note.
I see. Okay.
But we'll discuss it in the future, so don't care. Okay, any other? So everybody, I think somebody, I'm not seeing everybody. Oh, cool. So maybe. Okay, for now, I will assume that everybody did it. You're a rebel, Alexander.
No, I just don't understand the difference between 2 and 1 and what this means or this means.
For now, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But in the future, it will care because, for instance, when I do it the next time, I want to have a boundary between previous task and the new one. So I will ask you to type 3 next time. Okay. So sharing. Actually, for some reason, after this quarantine, caring not became something common. Okay, so we created a sound from the formula. It's actually could be a more complex sound. So for instance, nothing stops from you from doing something like, I don't know, this. So this, okay, and here you are. So you can combine several cosines or sines on your own. Another thing that I wanted to show you is no, I don't want to show it now. So another thing that I want to show you is the record mono sound option. You will see more or less the same. It's possible that there will be slight changes, but I think that's what you will see. And now I think it's time to talk about sampling frequency. Sampling frequency is frequency how many times per second mic will collect information from membrane. So for instance, in any mic, you have some kind of membrane and it will oscillate. And if you collect something with small time, so with small frequency, so the frequency of collecting data is actually influence quality of your data. Why? Because if you have small quality, then you need to have some approximation between values. And if, for instance, you get data 2 times per second, you will need some kind, so computer will need to have some kind of approximation between these two values. So the this frequency, sampling frequency corresponds to the frequency that is important for, so with the highest frequency in the sound that you analyze. And there is some rule that sometimes called Nyquist frequency, and the idea that it will be more than twice. So for instance, if you want to analyze something around 16 kilohertz, then you need to collect something twice bigger. So 32 or even 44 will be okay. Human speech mostly located within 5 or even 7 kilohertz. But something hissing, fizzing, or like and so on will overreach these values, and it will be really high until, I don't know, 12 or even 30 kilohertz. 13 kilohertz. So in order to achieve it, it should be, so in most cases when you record speech, you can do something like this. Everything is recorded within the 20 kilohertz. And so from 0 to 20 kilohertz, you will get the frequency of the speech, human speech. So it's maximum and overload even. And then you twice it and you will get 44 kilohertz. From this, I claim that this 44, so 40 or something, so those are standard values. 44 or 32 kilohertz will be the standard values for recording speech. Okay? That's why if you change, you won't hear with the, when you create sound, but actually when you record with 8 kilohertz, that means that you will miss something above 4,000 hertz, and that means that you will miss some part. But this actually we'll discuss in the moment. I think that it appears that also present in the lower values of frequency, so it's not like you lose much. But I think this is the quality where it's possible to compare the sounds and see the difference. So now I press record, and this will be a recording. Then I press stop, and I use save to list and close. And after I press play, and this will be a recording. Then I press, and this is what my computer produced. So for now, I think that I want you to produce, so record something and press 3 in the chat. It appears that most of you recorded something. So let's proceed with some analysis that we can do. So first we have 3 sounds over here, probably 2. First one is the sound wave, and the third one is the, one is the sine with 400 hertz, and this one just my words. First thing that you can do is press view and edit. And you'll see something like this. Here you see the just simple frequency, and this is actually around 400 hertz. And at the top, you can see oscillogram. We actually discussed this. So on the previous lecture. So here is oscillogram, and this is spectrogram. And we can select some. So using my mouse, I select some part of this and press select. And see here, we have just small sine. I can even change and select some smaller piece. So as you see, just simple sine with this, more or less the same ideal like we discussed in our previous lecture. Here, this is a spectrogram, and as you see, I think you will see some standards value that you'll see something like this. On the x-axis, you have time. So this is time, and you can see the total duration is 1 second. Visible part that since I selected part, it is just 0.06. So this is 68 milliseconds. And this division so something that I'm doing with my mouse is actually divide my space into 0.02, 0.01, and 0.02. So this is duration again. And here you have duration before this value and after. If you press somewhere, you can hear part of the speech. So I think here will be a bad example. So I will try to show you with this sentence. So what we can see from here, here is the silence. And you can hear nothing. Then there is some chunk produced by me. So you could press here. And this. And you can press here. Will be a recording. Then I press. And so you could press everywhere and see what's going on. It's also possible to do something like this and press select
as we've done before. Select. And this is some chunk of the sound, and you can try to hear what's going on here. You can will be I'm pressing here with visible part, and it will play me only visible part, or I can press on total duration.
And this will be a recording.
Then it will be, so the result will be that it played the whole sound. Okay. And this how you can hear something from this chunk. I would say even further, it's possible to manipulate some of this sound. So for instance, imagine that I don't like this. So first, imagine that I want to cut off this piece. So it's possible to use edit, cut, and edit, paste. And here all will show you the whole recording. You'll have it. So if I press now,
will be a recording. And this, then I press.
And as you see, I manipulated this sound. The one important thing to say is that sound that you open in Prot window will create a spectrogram only for 10 seconds, I think. So if your sound is longer than this, at the first you won't see spectrum. So yeah, so I can try open something, but I'm not sure that I have any short sounds over here. I have here. No, they're all shortish. No. No, it's short. Sorry, but you'll see. Okay, maybe it's better to do like this. I don't know. So here is the recording of the big song. So you see, to see the analysis, zoom into the at most 10 seconds. So you can go, for instance, to the beginning, and even it's 22 seconds, so we won't have any results. So you need 10 seconds, something like this. Now it's 8. I press select, and now I have spectrograms. And it's actually, it's really nice to look at the music recordings in the spectrograms, because you somehow see what's going on there. Something like this. Okay, so for now, please somehow manipulate with your recording. So cut something from somewhere and put it somewhere, and type 4 in the chat. Okay, cool. Quite a lot of you have done any task. Do you have any questions? Because it's better to ask them now.
Yes, I actually have a question. On the bottom part, like section, I have some kind of a blue line.
Okay. Could you
What
share
is
your
it?
screen?
Uh,
Not sure.
Unfortunately, I can't because I'm using a tablet and doing this stuff with the
Okay.
computer.
So it's blue lines. So instead of our pink one, isn't it?
No, no, I don't know how to explain it.
Is
Might
it
have
possible to?
the same line.
On the
Maybe,
spectrogram, I
maybe.
think.
Okay, I get it.
Oh, okay.
I get it. I think that I get it. I think so. For a moment, let's get back to this sound. And what you have is something like this. So these blue lines.
Yes, yes.
Don't worry, it's a pitch. So it's like a separate system. I wanted to play around with spectrum first, but anyhow, you asked, so I will answer. So it's possible to switch off this spectrogram. So I'm doing this. And what I have here is the blue line that corresponds to the pitch values that are here. So you can see that these are 300 hertz and 235 hertz. And those are changes in the pitch. And actually, if you follow the sound, we'll be recording. And this benefit. So as you see, it will be some down. We'll be recording and going down. And then I'm doing the same thing. And this going up, my intonation goes up. And those lines corresponds to this. They have this strange jumps, but it's the problem of the not all sounds in the speech are vowels, and you have something like this because it's try to estimate what kind of pitch value is there, but I'm pronouncing s in this moment, so it kind of buggy over here. But mostly it's a pitch. It's also possible to switch off pitch and switch on intensity. This is intensity contour that corresponds to what? So for instance, compare this value over here. So we have here spectrum, or sorry, oscillogram, and the amplitude is smallish. So it's not so high. But then amplitude on s, for some reason with my s, it's this. So it's E and then s. It's really high. So here we have the, then E, then s. And on this part, it became louder. And this corresponds to loudness. So intensity corresponds to loudness. Pitch corresponds to the this, let's say, note. So and something like this. Okay. And those are possible things that we can look in our spectrum. So if you don't want to see blue lines or yellow lines, you can switch off or switch on pitch. And another thing that I didn't say is actually that you can point everywhere on the spectrum, and you will obtain the value of the spectrum. So here, for instance, 2000 hertz, this is the value. And here I have 4000 hertz, and this is the value, and so on and so on. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And now I want you to hear to some music. There is a change in the middle, and I want you to guess what's changed. It will be 9 seconds long. As you can see, it's a little bit loud. Maybe I need to decrease some over here. So, and as you see, it's clear bits over there. So you see boom, 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 boom. So this is a piece of electronic music, and I want you to think what's changed here. Okay. So here is the sample. So something like this. I know this is a hard task because you need to hear it from the, so it's like multiple sources that could change sound. But I think that you can guess what's happened. And this is, by the way, it's track called Blitz and the group called Digitalism. So what's changed?
Is it the bass? I couldn't hear the bass at the beginning, like really, really low notes.
They are present. We can even see them. So low notes. So since this is 5,000 hertz, we more or less hear it's there. So basses are there. I can put it another one. Give it a try if you want. Should I?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I will take smaller chunk like this. But have you ever heard this effect earlier?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it is like you are underwater and you cannot hear anything distinctly, and then you are just like
yes,
going, then hearing everything. How
yes.
it is called to this effect?
So this is a simple filter, and it's not visible here from spectrum, but I will show you how manipulate spectrogram, because if you go to the spectrum and spectrogram settings, you will achieve a little thing about spectrograms. So first, it's the view range from 0 to 5,000 hertz. If you change something, it will be, so anytime you change something, so from here, and I don't know, here, it's possible to get this standard value back pressing standards. And what I wanted you to show will be more visible if I change a view range for frequencies. Am I changing it? And it's here. So over here, what you can see, is it clear now what's happened?
Yeah.
Okay, so please explain.
It just meant that we can now see from the, I forgot what's it called, the lower part, the
spectrum.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess spectrum is now corresponding more or less to the frequency, to the upper part. I always forget the names.
Yes. So it appears that there were some, let's say, even here. So even with 20 kilohertz, I changed it to 20 kilohertz. So it looks like that even though we produce sound in more or less lower frequencies, so 7,000 hertz, it's more or less okay to have it. But we hear in higher frequencies. So we hear in more or less from 16 kilohertz to 20 kilohertz. That's why we try to record everything with 44 kilohertz. So this effect is just filtering. So you filter out higher frequencies, and then it's actually through all the bit. So you have it through all the beginning, and then they just removed this filter, and what was there afterwards, it was just without any filter. And here, again, it looks like they again turn on those filters. I'm not sure. It's possible that they just have this low bass instrument, because it's more like, you see there are some dots over here, so it looks like it's there, but it's again. So like this. So, and that's why I actually like to look at the electronic music, because it's you can say a lot looking at the spectrum of the electronic bits. And here you see a next change. So it looks like there were some filters over there, and there you can have them off. Okay, so is it clear?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So you said it works for electronic music best. If we put like any other song, will it show us which sound or like instrument is?
Sure, we can do it. Sure, no problem.
That's crazy. So you can tell where each instrument is coming in. Right?
That's the problem. There are a lot of cases when you don't. So let's. So no, sorry. I think it would be better just have some Renaissance music when you have something like this. I think this one is nice. Oh, it's too much. So now I think you see the rhythm, but it's not clear for instruments. I think. So for each clack of the harpsichord, you see this line. But you can't see any movements of violin, but this is just the problem of our scale, because if we decrease the scale to something like, I think something like this will. And maybe I want to do like this. And even bigger. Yeah, I think this is like this. Yeah, it's more informative, I think. Let's hear it again. So you see those lines over here. Those are harmonics. They are actually overlaid with each other, and it's really hard. But you can see that these movements are... So it's possible to somehow isolate the harpsichord and violin, not violin, but how do you call it? Larger violin. How do you call it in English? I can remember.
You mean cello?
Cello, yeah. But it's that's why it's not so the problem is that for harpsichord it's even more or less okay, because you will have more or less the same range for each note, but cello could be really like moving and tricky, so it will be more tricky. We can look at some more music, I think. I don't like chord, so we don't have it here, but maybe this one. Oh, this is, I think, this is also instrumental. I wanted to have something with one instrument. It's possible that, no, it's not. It's not what I wanted, I think.
You have something with a singing voice, maybe?
Oh, this is nice, yes. So here is a flute. Oh, no, sorry. Let's start with the beginning. Then here will be two flutes. So you see the sound will be here, amplitude increases. That means that they actually overlay with each other. This what you see here is harmonic. So you see the main note around 385, and then you see like corresponding harmonics. So you can actually multiply this by some value, and you will more or less achieve this one. So I think if you multiply by 2, I think you'll get the result. And this is by 3. No, it doesn't work. No, it works. Yes. So around 400, and then you see something like 800, something like 2000, 1200, and so on and so on. And this effect will work all over. So for instance, here we have a flute, and then you see those things. And when we earlier during the class, we actually we've heard this girl with the overtone music. What she can do, she actually can manipulate those additional harmonics that arise and change distance between them. So as you see here, one instrument, so it's easier to understand what's going on. So you see one note and and another thing I think it's important for spectrum, since for musical instruments, harmonics are more important than formants. It's better to increase window length, and probably we will increase our zoom to 700. I think something like this. And maybe even increase window. And as you see here, you can actually predict what's going on when we have simple flutes. It's really nice that those frequencies corresponds to the height of the note. So you can see da, 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 da. And that note is actually lower if you hear than the previous one, and you can see it here. And then they merge, there are second flute come over, and so on and so on. Okay, so is it clear? For me, it's important to show you that maybe I will get back to speech, because I wanted to show you exactly this effect. So here we discussed the speech. Yes? And I said this speech changing from 35 hertz and 300 hertz. Is it? So what I wanted to show you, that we can manipulate spectrum in order to see this. So imagine that we have spectrum view range from 35 hertz and then 300 hertz. We'll see a mess. It's not something that corresponds to these blue lines, isn't it? But this is exactly the problem that we discussed on the previous class. Remember, we've discussed that there is a window length, and if you have small window, then you have perfect time arrangement, what's going on in the time, but you lose information about what's going on in the higher chunks, because in the one moment the spectrum is correct, but it somehow loses information about what's going on around it. So in order to see what's going on around it, you need to increase window length. And I will increase it to this, even higher, 500, something like this. And maybe this will do the trick. As you see, when I increase window, the information about harmonics becomes more prominent. And as you see, you can start seeing the pitch in this on the spectrum, because we selected that spectrum is restricted to this area. And I think this is important, that you can see those harmonics. So it's possible to, so all the time you will have this dichotomy. I think that you either see what's going on in the frequencies, so exactly movement, so the movement in the frequencies, but you will lose information about time, or you can have information about time, but then you lose information about frequencies. And this could be done using those manipulation through view range and window length. Is it clear? Because otherwise pitch is here. You can see it, but with this small here, something that doesn't, so you don't have any information. And here it's actually artifact, so it's not important. Okay, I think I talk too much, but I hope that this is clear.
May I ask, because I'm a bit confused when you say that when we increase the window length, we lose time. What do you mean? I'm a bit confused, sorry.
Okay, so let's have what we have now. So here is this oscillogram, and from the beginning, I believe what's going on the oscillogram. So this is the beginning of some event, and this is the end of some event. And here we see some changes that corresponds to this event. Maybe I want to zoom there. So let's zoom. We already zooming. That's stupid. So here we have this. This is probably looks like a wow. It's a sonar. Okay. So sonar, and then this is a vowel, and then you have something. So here in the oscillogram we have the start, and let's say that this is the end. And now let's go to the spectrum settings. I will move it here. And I will increase it. So for instance, increase by this. So for now, what's changed? So if you see the changes, they became more like visible. So this movement in the different formats. So you see how one frequency changes to another. But the cost is that the timing of this event became not so visible in the spectrum. So if I increase it even further, you see it became splashes over here. So you see that it's clear what's going on, but in time, this is the wrong timing for event. It's not starting from this point, but it's starting a bit further. Is it answers your question, Anya?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
So this is important. When you have small windows, this will be smallish slice. So imagine that it will be correct according to this slice, but it's impossible to see the movement between them. If windows are too big, then you can see those movements, but it kind of like wavy. It's not saying you exactly, it looks like you are really drunk. So it's not saying you where it starts. And this is the general problem of all spectrograms. So it's not problem of this sound. It's not problem of, I don't know, my computer that can't compute something. It's the problem, it's the general problem of Fourier transform window approximation. It's possible to fix it, but it's not fixed in the main implementation in prod. Okay. Then I will move to the standard values. And another thing that I want to say for manipulation spectrum is the dynamic range. So dynamic range is the loudness and how we represent it. So it's possible to make, so here, for instance, we have the chunk that is actually silence. And for some reason, we have some events over here. So decreasing dynamic range, I will make it, no, decreasing. I will make it less, more bright. So I will lose some information, but it will make it's possible to focus on only important thing. If I overdo this, it will be not visible at all. So this is definitely the only important things over there, but this is too much. So I would prefer something like this or even this. So here, this is silence and more or less bright, and this is not silence and more or less not bright. So remember about those settings. So this is important for me that you know how to manipulate uh, spectrum settings and what corresponds to what on the spectrum. So here you have on y-axis you have different frequencies, and we can manipulate what is shown to us. So those 5,000 hertz is not the only thing that you can see in the world of spectrograms. Okay. I think that we have half an hour for annotations. Do you have any questions? Any stupid question that you can imagine? Maybe you think that those questions are stupid, but they don't. In most cases, they don't. So please, if you have any questions, ask them.
I have I have a similar question. I don't know. Is the pitch and the frequency related as a function like the pitch increase and the frequency decrease?
Okay, so you're asking, as far as I understood, how connected pitch and frequency?
Yeah.
So frequency is the, okay, so here. So pitch and frequency for me are just connected. So pitch defined by frequency where you have this movement. So this is movement of the fundamental harmonics when you that is produced in our vocal by our vocal cords. So this is like, and this is what we discussed in our class. That is here. When we discussed, where is it? Maybe here. So here. So fundamental frequency or pitch. It's something that produced with our vocal cords, and then it produced something like this. And the effect will be more or less the same as flute. So this frequency is twice this frequency is 3 times this, and so on and so on. And after this, vocal cord will filter some frequencies out, and we'll see not all harmonics, but just some of them. But the basic one, so the fundamental frequency, could be automatically extracted from this. And this, what we see here is a blue line, and this is something hidden at the bottom here. It's not visible in the spectrogram, it's there at the bottom. But the important thing about pitch that you should know that it's not connected to the loudness. But it's actually a lie because it's somehow connected, but it's easier to understand as loudness and pitch as a separate, not connected features. So it's possible to produce one note with the different loudness. So it could be it's changes a little bit, but imagine that it's not changed. So I can increase loudness with the same note, and I can change pitch with the same note. So and I can change both. So I can change them. So I make something like this. Maybe it will answer. Is it answer your question, Anshu?
I just confused with loud and pitch because the first music you showed us just adjust the frequency. The original music is the difference is the pitch, so it's not the loud.
Yes. So the loudness corresponds to. So the frequency corresponds to pitch level for music, and loudness corresponds to amplitude value. So intensive, or it's possible to have really huge oscillations like this, and they will be really intensive, so they will be loud, but the frequency will be the same.
Okay, maybe there exists some low loud but more frequently some like some that kind of sound low loud but frequently.
So if something have lower frequency, no,
this sound maybe have the low frequencies, but no, the fast frequencies, but low sound, low loud.
Low what?
Loudness. It's not loud. It's low. It's
low loud.
Low loudness, but frequency, high frequencies.
Yes. Imagine that I don't know. So it will be any loud high note, I think, what you described. So imagine that I go to the piano and really scream with this one high note. This is used in horrors, I think. So you see ping, 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 and it will be really high. And so with it will be high note. So with the frequency will be high, and it will be really loud. And it's also possible to have low note with the low frequency, and it will be not loud at all. It will be really quiet. So, yeah.
I understand now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now we're moving to the practical part. And I need to cover it. So in most cases, what we have in our work as a phonetician, we need to annotate sounds. this is really boring thing. And one thing to answer somebody who asked me, is it possible to get to understand what is pronounced without hearing it? And I said yes, and it will be your task. But I also can say that in most cases, when I annotate sounds, I'm hearing to music, because annotating sounds is really, really annoying. And so you don't need to hear what's going on there in order to annotate it. Because in most cases, but this is actually topic also that I selected, but in most cases, all boundaries are more or less visible. Okay?
It depends.
Sometimes, yes, Anya, sometimes it's really hard to to find a boundary, for instance, between vowel and some sonorant. But this is some problem by itself. It's impossible to mark the boundary even if you hear it. So it's more or less the same. You don't need to hear to what you annotate much if you master this. Okay. So I think that I will start sharing. And we get back to our sound. So I have here some sound, and here we have annotate. So annotation in R, oh sorry, in Prot, made by text grids. So you can use sound, annotate to text grids, and you need to have some sound selected. And then it will ask you all tier names, and there is a standard value Mary John Bell. And it also asks you which of those are point tiers. So first are just names for the tiers. So it could be 1, 2, 3. The second is point tier, and let's make third tier is a point tier. And afterwards, I will try to explain what's going on there. I think for now, it's better to look what I'm doing, and afterwards you will have some time to repeat it. Okay? Because now I will do some tricky magic. So I press OK, and there is a new object that appears in Part Object. This is text grid untitled and sound untitled. And it's possible to select them both. I use Shift in order to select them both. And then I have few options, and one of them is View and Edit. After I open View and Edit, you can see oscillogram and spectrogram, and you also see those tiers over here. 1, 2, and 3. And those are annotation tiers. First, let's play around with the first and the second tier. So you can select some chunk of the sound, press Enter, and you will get some 2 lines over here. Then you can type something over there, and then imagine that you select this chunk, but now I'm not selecting some sound, but I just want to have a boundary, one boundary. And it's possible to use Enter to follow this. So if you like, it's possible to do like this. And then we have something like this. Okay. So for now, it's possible to move around. So I use Alt and arrows. So right arrow in order to move through annotation, and it's really handy. And what I also can do is press Control 2, where 2 is the second tier. So it will create the same. So if I select some annotation, I can press Ctrl+2 and it will create some annotation on the next level. If you don't like those boundaries, it's possible to move them. So just drag and drop them. So you can do this. You can do this. Yeah. And if you accidentally created some tier, it's possible to use Alt and backspace in order to remove it. Actually, I orally pronounced a lot of different hotkeys that is present, but it's possible to have it here. So it's possible to have, so imagine that we don't have it. So here I have some boundary, and I have press add on selected tier, and it will create some boundary. And then you can select some other tier, yellow tier is selected, and then boundary, add interval boundary. And the same will work with this. So boundary, add on selected tiers, and then you'll get new boundaries. Sometimes your annotation could be really long. And look here, you can see that, for instance, those numbers are not visible here, but you can see them here. So it's possible to have really long annotation if you want. You're not restricted over there. And also it's possible that when you open, you will have some IPA chart here. It's also possible to, I think, remove it, but I can remember how to do it. Maybe here somewhere, or preferences. Anyhow, so for now, please. And oh, I closed it accidentally. Okay. So for now, please create. So I will stop sharing now. So please create some text grid and annotation for those sounds that you've created. Use 3 tiers. We'll discuss point tier after a minute. Okay, and then type 1 when you created several annotation on each tier. Please ask if you have any questions. I expect that you will create something like this.
And why you cannot highlight anything on the third tier? So I cannot, I can
Yes.
highlight.
I think we discuss it in several minutes.
Okay.
The short answer, because it's a point tier.
And what are the shortcuts or keys which I need to play in order to play or to stop my recording? Like
Tabulation, tab.
And to stop also tab, yes?
Yes, tab or probably escape or
Okay.
both. Yeah, tabulation or escape. Do you have any problems? Okay, it looks like everybody stopped sending numbers. If you have any trouble, to just say it to me. I will continue. So imagine that. So far we used those intervals, but what's going on with the third tier? As we mentioned, it's actually interval tier. So it made possible to annotate just single events, not intervals. So here, I create some annotation, and or here, oh no, to have it here. something like this. What's the difference? Difference between them is really sufficient. So it's if you have some um, interval events, it's better to annotate them with the intervals, but everything could be converted. So I think phoneticians just differ by this what they prefer. Do they like to have interval tiers and mark everything with interval tiers, or with the event tiers like this, point tiers like this? But in all other thing, it's more or less the same. So they don't have boundaries. It's just annotated. Those are annotated boundaries. Another thing that is important to note that it's nice to save your file. So now I will save it somewhere on my computer. The ideal story, so until you saved, nothing is saved. Just remember about this. So it's possible that you lose your work. So please save it. So file, so you need to change something in order to save it. So file, save text read as text file, or Control S and then save it somewhere. And it's better to have it as a, like repeat it every any time, because it's really easy to lose information if you want to do this. Something like this. Yes. So maybe then try to create some point tier annotations and put 2 in the chat. 2 this time, 2.
What should be a text, like what should be a format for saving text grid? So it should be TXT or?
This is a nice question. When I save it, it's the automatic suggest me this text grid ending. So it's better to have text grid and yeah, but it's actually text file. So I will show you some structure in a minute. So now I think most of you succeeded. I hope.
What should we do again to write to in the chat? So without text grid.
2.
What should we do?
Just create some
whatever.
annotations.
Okay.
Okay. So I think it's nice to show you what's going on there. So remember that this is just a plain text. Is it a good way to show it? I'm not sure. Yeah, it's okay. So it's actually plain text, which contain information about the length of your audio, how
We
many
see nothing,
we
I think.
can see. Yeah, sorry. Here it is. So it's it will say that it's type of text grid. It have information about the size of audio, how many tiers is there, and annotation for each tier. So for instance, we have class of interval tier, and you can go, so here is the empty annotation, then some blah annotation, and so on and so on. Interval tier and point tier have different text. It's called here text tier. Have different structure, So here, for instance, for points, so here we have intervals and they have x minimum, x maximum, and text values. Points, as you can guess, have only one value, so it's the time when it's obtained. So number is the 1 point time and mark is the text there. There is some software that allows you to manipulate with those files without doing everything in prod. And during our classes, I think we'll discuss those in once in the seminar. Also, for the next meeting, for the meeting after the next, so you have 2 weeks for the homework that is create the annotation for sound files that contain words backup, wukudu, and chika and tuka. And here is probably an example of what I want to achieve from you. So something like this. So you annotate a word and you annotate each sound over there. And I expect that you will send a text grid to our course assistant, Nastya Safonova. And here is her mail over here with the topic instrumental phonetics. And this is homework for 2 weeks. It's also possible to use IPA symbols in there if you are interested. There are symbols for consonants. I don't like them because there are some codes for how to, for instance, represent this sign. So you can, I'd rather show you. So for instance, imagine that I have this and I want to have this, and it's possible to use backslash sh and then you get, so you will see the sh, IPA sound for sh, but in the plain text that you'll achieve, you will see this annotation. So it will be backslash sh and so on. That's why I don't like it. I prefer to have it in Unicode IPA, but it's possible to convert them. So you have this IPA charts here. So this is for consonants, for vowels, for some diacritics. So just know about it. Do you have any questions?
To annotate a word, we should have its recording, yes?
Yes.
Right? But how can we get to pronounce ourselves?
I'd rather not to believe that you can pronounce Undic words correctly. That's why I put it a recording over here.
Okay.
So you can download it from there.
Okay, I see.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
How should we say prod objects? Like now we have the sounds, so should we?
Oh, that's a cool question. Thank you. So for now we have the sound, and it's save as WAV file, and then somewhere. And I prefer if you have a sound that you've created in prod, it's better to save as WAV file. It's the standard. And text grid, we already discussed it. Save as text file, and then use this text grid attachment. Not attachment. How do you call it? Extension. It's called extension. Okay. There are also another types of text prod objects, but we didn't we haven't discussed them, so I don't want to I don't want to bother with it now.
So do you mean that we should save it in WAV and in text read like 2 times, yes?
No, sounds you save in WAV file, file, and text annotation you save in text read. So those are two types of data.
Yeah, I also have a question. Maybe we've discussed it, but I missed it. Like, I get why we need interval tiers, but why do we need point tiers? Like, I've never used them. What are they for?
I actually lived a really happy life without them until I met my co-author, one of my co-author, Sven Gravunder, that use only them. So he uses only these pointers. So for me, it was like, wait, it's not really sufficient, but sometimes it's sufficient. So imagine that you want to mark not vowel boundaries, but burst of the consonant. Then it makes sense to annotate with the pointer rather than with the interval. But for most cases, you can really easy to understand that it's interchangeable. And for most cases, you are not interested in just boundaries. You want to have some events. So if you want to list events, then you use interval tier. But I actually try to defend Sven's position, but I'm honestly with you. I lived a lot of time using only interval tiers and still I use only interval tiers.
Okay,
But
because
there are
even
other people.
okay, I just wanted to ask when you said about the burst, even if it's a stop consonant, you still like it still has this silence before the very burst or
Yes.
whatever it's called.
Yes.
So yeah, we have to like. I mean, it's a part of the stop. So I don't really get how we can annotate it with just the point here.
It will be beginning of the closure. Then so some I don't know BC, beginning of the closure. B burst, then vowel, and so on. I can hear you, but I can read from your face. Okay, any other questions? Oh,
I
warning.
got this warning message. So what does it mean? You have you encountered this?
Let me see. So I saved it somewhere. Okay, no. Oh, yeah, it looks like you screamed on your computer. Please don't. So
Yeah,
then,
I didn't, but I think I have some problems with the mic on the computer. So yeah, so
yes,
it means that the like frequency is too high, or what has happened?
yes. So it's not frequent. It's actually connected to it's yeah. So in most cases, when I get it, it's when somebody just not screamed or just have done something with the mic. So if you do something like, or I don't know, or even too loud, for it's possible that you scream too loud, then it become overwhelmed and just doesn't receive. But I think it's a problem with intensity, not with the frequencies themselves.
Okay.
But this is really nice. I like students because they actually all the time you have something and they somehow manage to broke it. So this is brilliant. Any other questions?
I cannot open first lecture. It is in at the site curriculums like one, and I get error 404. So perhaps maybe you can later check it. And I don't know.
Sorry, let's check it. Here you clicked here.
Yeah, like one, like the previous lecture slides for the previous lecture.
Ah, no, not this one.
Yeah, not
for this one. No, not this one. For this one. Yeah. Sorry, I will correct it. Sorry for this. I will correct it. And this one? This one downloads something, so it's okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for noticing. I will correct it today. Yeah, thank you. So, if you don't have any questions, I'm really happy to see your happy black squares. And next time we'll talk about vowels. So, have a happy black square evening.
У меня есть странный вопрос. Я просто сейчас подумала, а частота, она же измеряется в герцах, правильно? А почему она называется частота? Это связано как-то с частотностью чего-либо?
Ну, да.
Колебание звуков, да? Насколько
Смотрите, помните волну? Это сколько раз она проколебалась за 1 секунду. Это и называется частота.
Угу.
Как часто она колебалась?
Как часто она колебалась?
Вы как будто все еще не удовлетворены.
Я просто сейчас сопоставляю это с картинкой. Просто мы на картинке, вот там частота, это там, чем выше частота, тем выше волночка.
На спектрограмме,
Да.
чем выше частота, тем она просто выше визуально, чем
Да.
в высоких частотах. А на осциллограмме, чем больше частота, тем чаще она вот так вот. То есть бывает вот такая бум один раз. А есть такая, которая и она, соответственно, больше раз проколебалась за секунду, значит, у нее выше частота.
Угу. То есть на каких-то картинках частота, она измеряется высотой волны, да? А на каких-то нет?
Никогда. Это все время, все, что высота, все, что по оси Y, это амплитуда. А частота, это сколько раз она проколебалась за секунду.
Ага. Угу. Хорошо, ладно.
Я всячески рекомендую, I really recommend to look here. Because it's wonderful thing that will show you what's going on, and they even have sound over there. And it will help you to get about information about amplitude, so you could manipulate with amplitude and frequency. So here you have some frequency. So look at those materials. They are really, really nice. Okay. And they are on this web page over here. They are. I really like them. So yeah, take a look.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so have a nice evening and see you in a week. Even less than a week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Goodbye.
Thank you for participating. I appreciate it. Bye.